Hello, friends. Welcome to Squared Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie, and today we're going to be creating my faith planner setup for the month of November. I'll be decorating my monthly and weekly pages in a fun autumn theme, so come play with me. And I have these acrylic brush markers ready to go, along with these 3 die-cut sticker packs, this set of washi tape Bible stickers, and this Planning Things sticker book, which I'll pull from. Okay, so per usual, we're going to start off with the weeklies in my faith planner setup, and I'm using a quadrant layout from my shop. I have pre-pulled one set of each of the leaves available from the 3 packs that I have. Each leaf type and color has 3 repetitions of it. So I only pulled one, and I have 2 more waiting in the wings there on the side if I need more stickers. But I just wanted to start with one, and then again, I mixed them from all 3 of the different styles of packs that I have, which included like a maple leaf style. There was a oak leaf style, kind of more rounded and long, and then the traditional, basic leaf shape. So those are the 3 packs that I have, and then the various styles within those I've mixed and matched and put in color order up above. So my idea for all of these layouts in this theme is to use this gradient of color with the leaves. Although I did struggle with how to really show it off well on all of the types of spreads that I have in this planner. I did try a few things off camera before I started just to get an idea of where this was going to go. And I really wanted to do something a little bit more windswept, a little bit more organic, but it just didn't fit specifically on these quadrant layout pages. I don't know, it's just a little too vertical in that this week box. And I like to keep the other boxes nice and open, and just didn't see having the leaves sweep through any of those other functional areas of the spread. And it just wasn't a really good space for sweeping the leaves within such a small, quarter of a page there, especially since it's very vertical. So I tried that. I tried some different backgrounds, tried some different like shapes, and nothing was really working. So I ended up sticking with this somewhat simple gradient going down the page on the side, and then adding in some other features like a quote or 2 and maybe a couple of stickers to each to see how that comes out. And then play around with those nice acrylic markers that I pulled to see what else we could do to just liven things up a little bit. Part of the problem too is that most of the leaves were not very, very small. They were mostly kind of like medium to large. And so just making sure that I could pull it all together and make it fit in a smaller space was a bit challenging. I am dropping in this first week here. I've already taken off the backers on this set and also put in the quote that I think I'm going to try. I cut it down just so that I could put it on 2 lines and have it fit next to the leaves. And I am now pulling in those acrylic markers and just adding a bit of texture with a slight confetti dot pattern in a gradient of color similar to the way the leaves are going down the page. I think it just adds a little bit of something extra, gives it that texture that I really wanted. And since I'm going to keep everything else fairly simple by keeping a black and white quote, and then I also added in that outlined leaf from the Planning Things sticker book, that's very simple and classic. So just a little bit of added texture with those markers, I think really helps make this spread kind of come to life a bit more. But overall, I'm really not going too crazy with this theme. I prefer, I think, specifically on fall leaf themes, things that are a little bit more simple. they tend to just look a bit better and show off a little bit more when they're not overly cluttered. So that's, I think, something that I just tend to do naturally. Even though in my mind I wanted to add more washi, maybe add more decor, I just was seeing the more that I was adding, the less these leaves really were taking center stage and being the highlight of the theme. So that's why I ended up going with a bit of a simpler look. And I think that in the end, it just tends to work better. The leaves all have a lot of texture kind of built into them with, the veining, and these ones in particular with the various colors and contrasts within each leaf. Lots of them have that. Plus, there's this die cut feature with very intricate small cuts. Not really rounded, but like I said, very small and intricate, which creates texture overall. So there's a lot going on in the main decor stickers. And so I think adding in more just tends to make that seem more cluttery than purposeful, I guess, would be the best way to describe what I mean. Just some tips about how I'm defining these little clusters here that are in each of the weeks. I'm sticking with smaller leaves, trying not to get too big, but enough of a small size that I can fit 5 of each leaf in each cluster. I just finished putting in that last set, and so now I'm going to go ahead and be a little more efficient now that I've figured out how I want these to look, and put in the quotes for each week along with a single outlined leaf, just for that repetition and the balance too. I think that it just works best. But each one is a little bit different, yet the same. That is something that you'll see me do often, specifically in this planner where I do the entire month in one theme. I like to do kind of a similar thing on each page, but it's usually not exactly the same, just kind of using similar elements and similar positioning or something to tie them all together. Even though the quotes are different or the leaves are different, each week shines on its own, but is obviously part of a bigger theme. And here you can see all the 4 weeks side by side and how I do that repetition on each. And more again for efficiency, since I'm kind of doing these all in line, I did all the quotes at the same time with the leaves, and now I'm putting in those confetti dot textures with the acrylic markers all at once. So I don't have to keep uncapping pens and recapping pens, specifically since I'm using all of the different colors that I pulled to create that gradient. And like I said, it's pretty subtle, but it just adds that little bit of extra fun and color. So I'm happy with that slight bit of texture that I was able to add in next to the leaves. Felt like it didn't overwhelm things, which is what I was going for. And now I'm putting some white gel pen on top of the black lines that divide some of the empty days at the beginning of the month, as well as eliminating that split day at the very end of the month, which you'll see I have a little hack for that to make that into 2 boxes. And I'll do that at the end of this setup. Again, foregoing the wax paper, and I'm just going to see how I might be able to use some of these larger leaves here in the sidebar to create that same feel of the cascading leaves in a line on the edge of the page. I'm able to add a little bit more here as far as number of leaves. I think I'm going to try 6 or 7, see if I can get those all to fit. It's a little bit trickier here because I don't have the exact colors that I really want to show off the gradient. So I keep going back and forth between certain colors and blending different ones together till I find something that I feel like gets that gradient across well. Like I said, it was a little bit trickier with these larger leaves since they were a little bit different as far as how they were designed and their color variations. I use this spread normally for what I call my takeaway. I do read through the entire Bible once a year, and so this is where I will track the verses that I read. And then normally I like to put in a application or some kind of takeaway from that reading that I can apply to my life for the day. And that was working pretty good at the beginning of the year, but sort of fell off during the summertime, got kind of busy. And right at this very moment in my life, I am very busy and a little bit distracted. So I don't know if I'm going to use this monthly again for that, or if I'm just going to track my verses that I'm reading from the Bible daily once again, like I did in the previous month. So, you will just have to wait and find out, like I will, once the month begins, and then I will do a flip through video of how the month went after it's over. So I'll be doing a flip through soon here for October, and you can see how October went and how I used those spreads. And then once December gets here, I'll do another flip through of how November went, and you could see how I actually used these spreads I'm setting up now. So, a couple of things I've just done. I've dropped in a single quote that's actually fairly long. And by quote, I mean this is actually a verse directly from the Bible. Even though I'm so glad to have these, they are a little bit awkward, but somewhat easy to rearrange if I need to. So, I just did a little bit of rearranging just now on one of the lines, and I think that that works out a little bit better than I had it previously. And I was able to cut this quote in half and use it on each side so that it wouldn't fill up too much space top and bottom, but fill up the entire empty area there at the top. I am adding in some of these acrylic markers now. And what I decided to do was, in case I do a takeaway again this month, I like to do the verses that I read on top where I'm putting in these lines, and then I'll put the application below. So I'm setting it up accordingly, and as I'm doing that, I'm adding in colored lines, kind of in a gradient, and then also adding in the confetti dots on the sidebar going down the page in that same gradient of tone. I did do it somewhat diagonally so that I could fit all of the colors in, and their rhyme or reason is a little bit vague, but basically top to bottom, I was still going from purple through the like red, orange, yellow phase down to the green. And here I'm just going to sneak in this box to extend and give myself a full box here with this hack. And basically, it's just another sheet of paper cut to the exact size of one of the month days, folded at a diagonal, and then glued down on one side so that I can flip the little door and use it on either side. Okay, so we have moved on to the final spread we're going to be setting up, which is my faith overview spread. This is available in my Etsy shop along with all the printables that I'm using here. So if you're interested in anything you're seeing, do check the video description. I'll have the layouts as well as the stickers and anything else I'm using for this decor setup in there so that you guys can find it and grab it for yourself if you see something you really like. But anyway, so this is my faith overview, and here is where I track like my faith habits and my prayer list and my spiritual check-in every month. So I'm setting this one up as well, again, sticking with that theme. And I'm going to use a little hack that I came up with a while ago and have used it a couple of times. That basically, if you need to make a border on the edges, specifically on the side edges of your spread, and have a limited number of stickers, or just kind of want to make it a little bit easier overall on yourself, you can put the two sides that would be facing away from each other together and then lay your stickers down across the seam. Cut it in half, and then you'll have stickers on both sides that have a similar gradient going down for this specific theme. But even if you're not doing a gradient theme, if you're doing just a simple border with different stickers, this works really well for that little trick and makes the setup a lot faster. So I am pulling in basically what leaves I have left and kind of worked out again another gradient going from top to bottom. Really liking that, so we'll go ahead and do some trimming here and then separate the pages, and you'll see how easy it is to get a really cute border with a simple once set in of stickers. And of course, to match all the other pages, we're going to pull in at least one quote, maybe two here. And then I will grab some of these outlined leaves. Once again, to tie it together. That one doesn't really fit that well. Let's see if I can get it in there. I think that's all I'm going to do for that. I will add in, of course, the acrylic markers with that confetti texture. And I'm just using the bulleted end for that. I'm just dropping in a couple dots. 3 is usually where I start, and then I may add up to 6 in a specific color, depending on, how it gets placed and what I feel like it needs next to the various leaf cascade. I'm also going to pull in a little bit more of that color into my habit trackers. So just kind of going down, and then if I see a color that I want to pull over that kind of matches up with the leaves next to it, I will. I did think about adding that color in different areas, but I think I'm just going to really stick with those habit trackers and maybe add in some dots for my prayer list or some bullets. Other than that, I think I'm going to just keep it pretty simple. And really, that's it, friends. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.